Good evening and welcome to the Crown Hill Journey. I'm your hostess for this journey, and I'm also the author of the book, Crown Hill, a Novel of Love, Life in the Afterlife. I'm very pleased that you will join me tonight. We are in the third book of this book. There are three sections or three books of the Crown Hill book. And tonight we read in book 3, which is Meg, and we are in the second chapter. We met Meg last night for the first time, and she is a newly divorced woman. It is 1995, June 3rd, 1995, and Meg has just taken possession. She's been at her lawyer's, Jethro J.T. Tull, and she has signed both her divorce papers and her ownership papers for this house on the same day. And she feels as if it's a wonderful sign that she is going to have a better life now as she goes ahead with what her mother defines as heart mending. So before we get started tonight, there are a few things we need to remember. The first is that Mary and Owen Southwick lived at Crown Hill in the 1880s, and that they had a contentious marriage, and that Owen was abusive to Mary, that she died at the farm. She was found hanged in a shed out behind the house. The town doctor decreed it to be a suicide, but the town believes that Owen murdered his wife because he had been so abusive to her. The next thing you need to remember is that Edward Randall owned the house from about the 1910, 1915 until 1930, and that in that time, the house, Edward used it as his summer home with his family, and he also became involved in spiritual activity by aligning with a woman who was a direct voice medium from Rochester, New York, named Emily French. What happened in 1922, which was the time frame that we were with Edward at Crown Hill, was that the house became invaded by an evil force. Mary Southwick after she dies. The death was so torturous that she can't pass. Her soul is stuck here in this world as a spirit. And so she has taken refuge in Crown Hill. And in this time, in 1922, when Edward Randall is there, Mary starts to haunt the house because she realizes Edward has the ability to help her pass, and she wants it. She wants out, and she sees him as a vehicle. A young girl from down the road, Rose, comes, and she is the pure spirit needed to help Mary pass, but evil invades the house and takes over, hurting Rose, and damaging the house and damaging Edward's reputation in the community, and continuing the reputation of Crown Hill as a place of a haunted house on the hill is the way it was known in the town of Eden. And so Edward decides to leave, doesn't want the house anymore. His family is afraid to live there. And so he puts it on the market and can't sell it for a number of years. He finally turns it over to a bank and says, do what you will with it because there's nothing I can do any longer. And that was in 1930. And those were all really true facts. And so now the house has languished empty for 15 years. And now gradually people came, but they came and turned over. So we advanced to 1995. In the time that this house has been empty, Mary left the house. Crown Hill could not find Mary anywhere after she had spent so many years in Crown Hill's protection as a spirit trying to pass to the next world. She left, and the house does not know where she is or how to find her. We now advanced last night to 1995 with Meg. Meg Flynn. She has taken over, and she believes this house will be a wonderful new safe haven for her. In the meantime, we also found out that Mary came back to Crown Hill and asked please to be able to come back into the house's shelter. And the house said yes, but with the understanding that her leaving and not telling her where she was or if she was all right has hurt the house, has wounded the house's spirit. And while the house has accepted Mary back, it's unsure that that sense of love that they shared for so many years can return. So I think that's pretty much what you need to know to be able to move forward tonight. And I'm going to have a sip of wine and we're going to start. Okay, wine and glasses, the two things we need. Crown Hill, a Novel of Love, Life, and the Afterlife. Book 3, Meg, Chapter 2. Hello, 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 anybody in there? The words came to Meg as if she were in a dream. Still, the continual barking of her best friend and canine protector, Goldie, forced Meg to open her eyes and realize it was an actual person, not a fantasy, calling out. "Hello, hello, hello, I'm here at your back door." Meg rolled toward the nightstand and tried to focus on her Big Ben alarm clock. It took 3 tries before she could comprehend it was not quite 7 o'clock in the morning. The only thing worse than the ungodly hour was the relentless pounding on the back door by someone clearly demanding an answer. "Hello, hello, hello! I know you're in there. I can hear your dog barking." This is nuts, Meg thought as she considered pulling the covers over her head until the person gave up and went away. However, Goldie's persistent yelps made it clear that whoever was trespassing on Meg's privacy had no intention of leaving unanswered. Finally, in frustration, Meg threw back the covers and stomped down the stairs to the door, giving no thought to her rumpled nightgown appearance. Pushing through the kitchen to the back porch entry, Meg was astounded by what she saw standing on the other side of the locked screen door. On her back patio stood a man, slight in stature, wearing a sweat-stained, burgundy-colored Eden Raiders baseball cap. The cap was complemented by an outfit of well-worn denim vest atop a pair of tan bib overalls and a frayed black t-shirt. The odd little man's look was accessorized by thigh-high yellow rubber boots. In his weathered, gnarly hands, he held a rectangular wire basket filled with straw and a variety of brown and white eggs. Struggling to identify this peculiar person before her, Meg blurted out the first words that came to mind. "Who in the world are you, and why are you knocking on my door at this ungodly hour of the morning?" Without pause or breath, the elf-like man launched into a breakneck patter that only confused Meg further. "My name is Franklin B. Jones, B for Buckley, which was my father's name from my father and his father's father before him, but most people just call me Frankie B. I'm your neighbor from down the road on the red house at the bottom of the hill. You know, the one you pass by when you go drive out of town. I've lived here all my life, just like my father and his father's father before him. Well, we were all born in that house, which I guess makes it a pretty special place. Anyway, I raised chickens there, like my father and his father's father before him, but I couldn't possibly kill them or sell them, so instead I sell their eggs every morning. I go door to door, up and down the hill, and sell my fresh eggs to everyone. So I was just wondering if you would like to buy some eggs." Meg was completely dazed by this individual and instinctively reacted to his breathless sales pitch by laughing and laughing and laughing. Meg laughed so much that tears welled in her eyes, and she became acutely aware that she hadn't yet gone to the bathroom this morning. At the same time, Frankie B. engaged in his own wave of giggling hysteria that literally dropped him to the ground. Quickly unlocking and opening the screen door, Meg stepped outside to help the prone man to his feet. Goldie, however, beat her owner to the punch, slipping past Meg and swarming Frankie B., excitedly barking and licking his face. As Meg scolded her usually well-behaved pet and tried to pull her away, Frankie B. quickly intervened. "Oh, please don't yell at her. She was just playing and didn't hurt me at all. I love animals, especially dogs, and I think she's just beautiful." Frankie B.'s non-stop delivery set Meg giggling once again, although this time she managed to blend some conversation with her laughter. "So let's get this straight, Frankie B. You're going to come to my door every morning at the crack of dawn to sell me fresh eggs." "Oh, no. Well, yes. I mean, I guess, I don't know if it'll always be this early. It depends on how early the hens lay their eggs. And then in the winter, sometimes the snow keeps me from getting out as early as I want. And then there are always those days when I have to go into town to visit my mother. But yeah, I guess mostly every day I'll be here." And Meg again began to adjust to Frankie B.'s rapid speech pattern. She found that she could listen to him without bursting into laughter. And while she did find the diminutive man utterly charming, she was very sure she did not want him serving as her daily alarm clock. You know what, Frankie B? I think we should make a deal. You see, I would really love to have fresh eggs, but I also want to be sure that I don't waste your time coming to my door when I might not need eggs that day. So how about if we agree that I will stop by your house any time I'm low on my egg supply? If you're not there, I can leave a note telling you how many eggs I need, and you can deliver them the next day. How does that sound? Oh, I think that's great. I wish more of my customers would come to my house to buy eggs. You know, I'm not getting any younger, and there are days when by the time I'm done with my egg root, I'm pooped. But then I guess, as my father and his father and his father's father before him always said, hard work never did a body harm. So I guess all's fine. And don't worry, I'll make sure that if you leave me a note, I'll get your eggs to you bright and early the next morning. Unless there's a snowstorm or I have to go to town and visit my mom. Did I tell you that she's at St. Michael's in town? She's been there since my father died. She was so sad. And so she moved to St. Michael's so they could make her happy again. But anyway, I gotta go. I got lots of eggs to sell. See you soon. With that, Frankie B turned and was gone, leaving Meg breathless from her first neighborly encounter. Well, Goldie, if Frankie B is any indication, our life here is going to be pretty interesting. The doe-eyed golden retriever softly nudged her owner, as if in agreement. Meg relied on Goldie. Over the last year, through her separation and divorce, Goldie had become her best friend, her confidant, her advisor, and her confessor. There was no doubt in Meg's mind that Goldie was the single most important part of her divorce settlement. She was grateful that Cale had not punished her by demanding custody of their special pet. As Meg wandered into the kitchen to scavenge for a decent breakfast, she realized that Frankie B had left without selling her any eggs. Darn, scrambled eggs and toast sounded pretty good, she thought. However, even toast was impossible, as Meg had failed to grocery shop amidst the flurry of moving into her new home the day before. Moving in. Yeah, right, Meg thought. A bed, a few pieces of furniture, and some boxes with assorted clothes, linens, books, and Graham's leaded glass bookcase. It was hardly enough to settle the rambling old farmhouse. Meg went into her marriage with few possessions and came out pretty much the same. A tidy divorce settlement was the most significant result of her legal wrangle with Cale, and Meg was fully intent on safeguarding that money in secure investments. No way was her ex-husband's prediction ever going to come true, that in 5 years she'd be out of money, begging him to take her back. Meg had to admit, though, the possibility haunted her. Fear had been a prime motivator all of Meg's adult life, as she struggled to live in a marriage of few good times and many sad. From angry tirades to abusive threats and actions, Meg had endured 2 decades of fear, which at this point was a tough habit to break. Yet here, in this house, in her own space and sanctuary, Meg was committed to changing, to replacing her long-held fears with courage and confidence and a true belief in herself. Okay, first things first, Goldie. The faithful pet perked up at the sound of her name. I'm going to grab a shower, and then we'll go grocery shopping so we have food in the house. How about that? Wagging her tail in agreement, Goldie bounded up the back stairs with Meg following close behind. The cheerful canine claimed a spot on her owner's bed while Meg showered and dressed. It felt like a good start to their new life. Giving a quick brush to her auburn curls and putting a dab of her favorite cinnamon perfume behind each ear, Meg headed to the bedroom door and called Goldie to follow. An unexpectedly deep growl returned from her always good-natured pet. Turning around, Meg saw Goldie sitting guardedly on her bed, her body fully tensed. What's wrong, girl? More deep-throated growls, along with a warning bark, returned in answer. Meg watched in astonishment as Goldie's fur rose in a solid ridge along her back, an unmistakable sign of her sweet companion's angry fear. Meg had never seen Goldie act aggressively and was somewhat unsure how to react. While she trusted the loyal dog with her life, there was something intimidating about the irate intensity the golden retriever was exhibiting. Disturbed, Meg turned toward the direction of Goldie's agitation. A carved, four-panel bedroom door, partially closed, with a long mirror attached to the back. There was nothing around the door or by it, nothing that appeared bothersome in any way. Nonetheless, Goldie's distress continued to increase, her barks escalating in what sounded like loud and angry forewarnings. Suddenly, she sprang from the bed toward the mirror. Looking again in that direction, Meg saw nothing but her reflection and the distraught image of her usually calm pet. From all that Meg could glean, Goldie's reactions were completely unwarranted, and they were starting to border on annoying. "Goldie, stop, now!" Meg called out with all the authority she could muster. Upon hearing her owner's stern voice, the well-trained dog hesitated, looked away from the mirror towards Meg. And in that split second, Meg saw something. A shadow, a movement, something that hadn't been there before. Then just as suddenly, whatever it was disappeared. Nonetheless, Meg was sure that she had seen something unusual in the mirror, if only for that moment. The apprehensive woman stood completely still and tried to comprehend what was going on. What had just happened? Goldie came and sat alongside her, whining softly. Meg couldn't help but think how much her whimpers sounded like a human cry. A strong chill traveled through Meg's already tense body. "Okay, enough of this." Meg shook off an odd feeling. "Come on, Goldie, let's go downstairs." The loyal dog responded by immediately heading out of the room, Meg following close behind. Moving past the mirrored door, Meg found herself immersed in the unmistakably sweet fragrance of roses. They were her favorite flower, and she found the scent at once glorious and hauntingly odd. Suddenly, the perfect beginning to Meg's day felt skewed. Cautiously, I allowed Mary into my being. True to her word, she respected my need to proceed guardedly. In time, our days evolved into gentle conversation, our nights into accepted silence, with nary an utterance of Mary's lengthy disappearance between us. Still, my abiding sense of darkness continued. Yet another prospective buyer rejected me, defining my being as unsuitable for his family's home. Such continued condemnation increased my worry. Would my unsettled spirit forever prevent anyone from finding goodness within my shelter? Upon reflection, I recognized that the only way to lighten my being was to address my lingering sadness. I needed to understand what had taken Mary from my care and why. I began directly. "Mary, I have a need to ask something of you." "Of course, dear friend, whatever you wish." "You have told me over and again that you did not leave my shelter of your own accord. I find your words implausible, but at the same time, I cannot imagine that you would purposefully speak untruths. Setting aside distracting emotions, can you more fully explain the powers that forced you from within me? With her opportunity at last at hand, Mary began. Crown Hill, in our life together as homemaker and home, you were immersed in the turbulence generated by Owen. You witnessed the many ways in which my husband callously treated me. I did, my gentle friend. Owen was a brooding man who attained his power by diminishing yours. It saddened me deeply to witness the spoken and physical mistreatments you endured at his will. Dearest, while Owen's merciless ways many times overwhelmed me, the most wretched measure of his mistreatment was that he never considered me more than chattel, a possession to be owned and used at his whim. That is why contemplation of a life, any life, away from Owen was impossible. Escaping my husband's cruel reach was a torturous dream that I understood I would never realize. I had no doubt that Owen would desire my death over my freedom. The misery woven through Mary's memories was heartbreaking. I could feel my anger dissolving with every word. So, dear Crown Hill, while the end of my life was violent, you can understand how, in a strange way, it was also a blessed relief. I was finally free of Owen's cruelties. Mary paused, and in the space of that silence, I was returned to the moment of her agonizing death. Shock waves again passed through me as I envisioned her twisted and bruised body, choked in the thickly woven rope hanging from the woodshed rafter. I knew Mary was feeling the intense pain of her demise as well, and I extended the comfort of my being to her spirit. It was some time before she was able to again speak. The true sadness in my passing was that my respite was short-lived. Owen's malevolent nature continued to control me following his death 3 years after mine. Due to the wickedness of his earthly life, Owen's spirit became trapped in this world, much the same as my desperate passing imprisoned me. Realizing our shared destiny, Owen's intent became to seek my spirit and again control me, just as he had in our life together. In his search, he became a presence and a force within you. My immediate reaction to Mary's account was disbelieving rage. How is it that I was unaware of Owen? How long a time was he in my shelter? What pain did he cause you? My demanded answers returned from Mary, void of emotion. You never knew of Owen. I shielded you. I connected with him only in the space of the woodshed. In fact, that is how you came to find me there the day you, Edward, and Sir Arthur first engaged with Rose. Recalling the occasion, I instantly understood the sadness I had sensed in Mary's spirit that day. She continued to explain, her words further aiding my recall. As I had haunted Owen to his grave, he blamed me for his eternal condemnation. Accordingly, he decreed that I would now be forever responsible for ensuring his comforts. So in the pattern of our mortal lives, my spirit became entrapped within his dominating self-indulgence. My only saving grace, as always, dear one, was my ability to hide away from Owen within your protective embrace. As long as I appeared in the woodshed, whenever he bid, I could keep his spirit separate from you. And so I became dedicated to ensuring that you were never aware of his presence or my plight. The impact of Mary's words upon me was strong and direct. I could not imagine all that she had endured in keeping Owen outside of my being while still answering his demands. I clearly understood it as a pattern from their married life. Yet I found myself wishing that instead of protecting me, Mary had shared her torture, particularly as she continued to explain her circumstance. Wretchedly, everything changed when Owen realized your intent to release my spirit from this world, relying on young Rose as your guide. Owen was enraged by your plan, and his fury made it impossible for me to keep him contained. Forcefully, he entered into your being and silenced my spirit, just as he did when he was alive. Mary's descriptions triggered memories that I had tucked away, hoping to never again recall. My senses streamed with painful recollections of those final moments with Edward, Sir Arthur, and Rose. I could feel Mary's despair as well, as she described parts of the experience that I never knew. In the depths of my enforced despair, I watched Owen overpower and prevent you from drawing close to young Rose. I saw him challenge the innocent girl as she valiantly railed against his evilness, trying to aid me. And all the while I heard you, yes, you, dear Crown Hill, calling my name, searching for me. But I could not respond. I could not come to you. Owen's power would not allow it. So I did the only thing possible. I went away from your care, drawing Owen with me. As I struggled to comprehend all that Mary was describing, she detailed the final part of her story. I continued within Owen's control for these many years, only able to finally elude him upon his union with a collective of shadowers, discontent spirits whose sole intent is to haunt the living. Their united purpose now keeps Owen distracted, and each day I pray that his spirit will remain so, allowing me to stay separate from him and safe within your caring space. Mary's words offered the truth that I had longed to hear, illuminating all that had transpired on that long ago day when her spirit departed from my shelter. It also distilled her absence to one factor: Owen. Owen was the one who had threatened me and forced me away from Rose. Owen was the one who controlled all of the spiritual activity around the innocent young girl. Owen was the one who had forced Mary to abandon me. At that moment, a burning anger rose up within my rafters against Owen and his evil ways, matched equally by my deeply contrite love for Mary. The combination of strong emotions roused my being. no matter the challenge or difficulties, I would punish Owen for his malicious actions. I would find the way to help Mary's spirit pass, leaving Owen forever trapped in the isolation of his evil nature. I was unsure how, but I knew that I would do all things possible so that he would never again have power over my loving Mary on any level, in any way. So, for those of you smart enough to figure out that the evil spirit was Owen, blue ribbons for you. It was Owen. And he is an evil man. And, you know, I'm grateful that Mary had Crown Hill to take care of her. Because in truth, while I may have dramatized Owen a little bit, he was that man. And so, yeah. I don't know. That's a lot to think about. That's a lot to digest. So I hope you enjoyed meeting Meg and Goldie. Goldie is such a special dog, and you will find that as the story goes on, she becomes a bigger part, and I think you'll enjoy that part. Meg is really hoping that Crown Hill will be her salvation and her special place. And yes, Kathleen, you did know it. You were the first one to guess that it was Owen. So good for you. But anyway, we will continue to move on and get to know Meg more. Grocery shopping in chapter 3 is going to be very interesting. So make sure you come back tomorrow night at 7:30 to see what happens to Meg at the local Surefine Market in Eden. And I noticed a couple people from Eden, Jocelyn and Barbara Newrider were here tonight. People from Eden that live in this town and have lived there a long time. And I'm glad that you were here to be part of this. So thank you everyone for joining, and I wish you a good night, and I hope that you come back tomorrow night for book 3, chapter 3.